Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. A media storm was unleashed after the president signed a law on investigating Russian influence in Poland. The liberal world press saw it as an attempt to exclude opposition leader Donald Tusk from the election campaign. Strongly worded statements were issued by European Union Commissioner Didier Reynders and the United States State Department. Meanwhile, the Polish Foreign Ministry reiterated that first, the legislative process is taking place in Poland, and second, the law contains all the necessary safety valves. What are the facts? These were checked by Łukasz Zmuda of Telewizja Republika. President Andrzej Duda, when signing the act on the establishment of the Investigative Commission for the Investigation of Russian Influence, announced that it has been referred to the Constitutional Tribunal in a subsequent procedure. This means that the law will be published in the Journal of Laws and will enter into force, and only after that may the Constitutional Tribunal repeal its provisions if it finds them incompatible with the Constitution. I don't really understand how investigating Russian influence on Poland over the past 16 years would damage Polish democracy, because rather it would be Russian influence that would damage Polish democracy and not the Commission that will investigate it. During the Monday meeting with the inhabitants of Polchin-Zdrój in southern Poland, the president also referred to the political career of Donald Tusk in European structures. I will never understand how you can leave an important function in the Republic of Poland to work somewhere in Brussels. However, according to the opposition, the Commission for the Investigation of Russian Influence is to exclude Donald Tusk from the upcoming parliamentary elections. You want to exclude a man from the political struggle by law. You do not know anymore how to win in normal elections. You have to refer to the methods of Erdogan, Orban in Hungary. They use the whole state apparatus to win elections. According to the United States Department of State, the law could be abused in the upcoming elections. However, in the opinion of the President's Office for International Policy, there has been no thorough legal analysis of these provisions. The Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a statement on the matter. Russian influence on Poland's domestic security requires a thorough investigation and public scrutiny. The newly adopted law on the establishing a national committee to investigate Russian influence on Poland's domestic security in the years 2007 to 2022 ensures such investigation will be carried out with public transparency to the fullest possible degree, providing due process in a fair procedure. To ensure impartiality, the committee will be composed of members designated by all political groups in Parliament. The proceedings will be carried out according to the principle of objective truth, with an examination of all available evidence presented also by the interested parties. Furthermore, any party subject to a committee's decision will have the right to appeal to an administrative court in a two-instance procedure and to request that it's provisionally suspended until the final verdict of the court. The committee's work will not limit voters' ability to vote for their candidates in the elections. On the contrary, it will provide the public with wider access to information about matters crucial to national security. Poland values the alliance with the United States highly and remains ready to engage in further dialogue through diplomatic channels. During the meeting of EU Ministers for European Affairs today, a Polish law establishing a commission to investigate Russian influence was discussed. We are now particularly concerned about the situation in Poland. According to the Polish ambassador to the European Union, Andrzej Sadosz, the European Commissioner is not telling the truth when he says that the regulation does not provide for an appeal to the court. Krzysztof Szczucki, the president of the government's legislative centre, also points out that the law provides for the possibility of appealing against the Commission's decision. The decision may be appealed to the Regional Administrative Court, which may confirm or revoke it. No one will be prevented from running in the parliamentary elections, lawyer Professor Waldemar Gontarski emphasised. The decision of the committee at the time of filing a complaint to the court will be withdrawn, then it is no longer there. Interestingly, it was only 6 months ago that Civic Platform leader Donald Tusk called on the government to investigate Russian influence on Polish politics. It is of the utmost importance to explain this. I do not want to call at the moment for a commission, but I believe that today we have no other choice. Mr. Chairman Kaczynski, this is in the interest of Poland, in the interest of public opinion, but also in the interest of your party. A clear declaration by Donald Tusk, a statement during a press conference when this politician pushed for the creation of an investigative commission. He pressed Law and Justice to pass a bill that would clarify the functioning of Russian agents in Poland. The effects of the decisions made by the Donald Tusk government are still being felt today. In response to President Andrzej Duda's decision to sign the law, the leader of Poland 2050, Szymon Hołownia, and the leader of PSL, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, decided to take part in the march on 4th of June, organised by Donald Tusk. I think it will unite the opposition at the political and decision-making level, as well as mobilise the electorate of the opposition parties. Fear, anger, hatred, they have finally got to the heart of the matter. The essence of the matter is that a significant part of the Polish elite was formed by the occupiers and invaders. And even young people who today sympathise with the opposition are alumni of these elites. They retain a post-colonial mentality. The Commission will investigate Russian influence on the state's security in the period between 2007 and 2022. It will cover the years of both the Civic Platform and Law and Justice governments. Mariusz Błaszczak, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defence, and Arvydas Anušauskas, Minister of Defence of Lithuania, held the fourth meeting of the Polish-Lithuanian Council of Defence Ministers in Warsaw. After the meeting, Błaszczak said that Poland stands united with Lithuania against attempts to reconstruct the Russian Imperium. One of the topics of our talks was cooperation in the cyber domain, primarily in the context of countering attacks. We talked about the cooperation of special forces. We also talked about the support that both countries are providing to Ukraine. We are well aware of the threats. We are unanimous when it comes to opposing Putin's attempts to rebuild the Russian Empire. As Moscow and Minsk rattle their arsenals, including their nuclear weapons, we understand that no concessions can be made to the current Kremlin regime. Long-term deterrence of Russia and response to aggression require an increase in combat capabilities on the eastern flank. That is why Poland's military build-up is a model for other NATO countries to follow. During the meeting, the ministers discussed the existing military cooperation between the two countries and will define the direction of further development. In addition, ministers of defence discussed the current security situation in the region in the context of the continuing war in Ukraine and discussed preparations for the NATO summit in Vilnius in July. It is very symbolic that the preparations for the NATO summit in Vilnius have brought us together here in Warsaw. Both Poland and Lithuania see Russia as a long-term threat to Western security and democratic values, to the stability of the international system based on mutual trust. As Moscow and Minsk brandish weapons, including nuclear weapons, we understand that concessions cannot be made to the Kremlin regime. We agree that we must work both in a bilateral format as well as jointly using the capabilities of NATO and the European Union. We agree to intensify joint military exercises. We cooperate on arms purchases. We are purchasing Grom air defence systems at a cost of more than 20 million euros, Lithuania's defence minister noted after the meeting. The Lithuanian defence minister stressed Poland's role in ensuring security on NATO's eastern flank and praised the process of strengthening the armed forces. A decisive response begins on the front line in Ukraine. We stand united with this struggling nation. NATO should continue to strengthen its forward defence. Long-term deterrence of Russia and response to aggression require an increase in combat capabilities on NATO's eastern flank. Poland's strengthening of its armed forces is a model for other allied countries to follow. At the Vilnius summit, we are pursuing practical solutions to strengthen the defence of NATO's eastern flank, Minister Arvydas Anušauskas said. After the plenary talks, the defence ministers of Poland and Lithuania signed a joint position on the development of further military security cooperation. Deputy Prime Minister Błaszczak said that Lithuania has decided to purchase Polish Grom anti-aircraft systems. Today we discussed, among other things, joint arms purchases. I am very pleased and thankful for the Lithuanian decision on the purchase of Groms, which will go to the equipment of the Lithuanian armed forces. This is another transaction of this kind, which speaks very well of our relations. Russia is blaming Ukraine for launching a drone attack on Moscow early Tuesday, which reportedly left 2 people injured and several buildings damaged, a rare incident in the Russian capital after months of war. Residents in Kiev have faced 17 airstrikes this month alone. There was another Russian bombardment of the Ukrainian capital overnight, which officials said killed at least 1 person. According to Russian media, at least 3 residential buildings in Moscow were damaged by drones. Ukraine so far denies responsibility for the biggest ever drone strike on Moscow, which brought the Ukraine war to the Russian capital. Tuesday marked only the second time the Russian capital had come under direct fire after an apparent drone strike on the Kremlin earlier this month. The Russian Defense Ministry said that all the drones had been downed, although 3 collided with residential buildings in southern Moscow and the town of Moskovsky on the capital's outskirts. 2 people were injured. The Kremlin said it was obvious that Ukraine was behind the attack, and Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said the drones had been directed against civilian targets. Ukraine denied it was directly involved in targeting Moscow, but forecast more attacks would follow. Drone debris hit some of Moscow's most prestigious areas, including Leninsky Prospect, a grand avenue crafted under Joseph Stalin, and the area of western Moscow where Russian elite, including President Vladimir Putin, have their residences. I'm glad, of course, that it didn't hit our house, but it was quite close by. Well, it's logical. It's to be expected, that's all I can say. I've got thoughts of moving somewhere safer. Well, it's logical. It was meant to happen. What else did they expect? Residents in southwestern Moscow said they heard loud bangs at around 2 to 3 a.m. GMT, followed by the smell of petrol. Some filmed the drone being shot down and a plume of smoke rising over the Moscow skyline. Exactly how I'll do that paragraph again. Residents in southwestern Moscow said that they heard loud bangs at around 2 to 3 a.m. GMT, followed by the smell of petrol. Some filmed a drone being shot down and a plume of smoke rising over the Moscow skyline. Exactly how the Russian population views the war is unclear, as few trust pollsters enough to tell them the truth, and even then, émigré opponents of Putin say any negative polls would never be published. Criticism of what the Kremlin calls the special military operation in Ukraine has been punishable by law since the start of the conflict, and public criticism of Putin is rare. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.